Sure.
And here the board's doing. And then
First of all, we got on the house, we were at the same time. And then we weren't, you know, Charleston, the properties first time.
Yes.
Yeah.
So doing well. I don't know, several.
Board and, you know.
My name is Charlie Harris. I'm joined by commission members from my left. Mark Jackson, Sunday Lephasis, Rita Bryant Jenkins, Jimmy Bailey. To my right is McKenna Joyce and Erica Harrison. These folks are appointed by Charleston City Council. They're volunteers, so I know you join me in thanking them for their work. Before we start and get into well, let me do it. The way we're going to run the meeting tonight is I'll introduce an item to the record. We'll hear from staff. And staff will present it, give an opinion, recommendation on it. Then we'll hear from the applicant. Then we'll hear from anyone in favor of the application, anyone who may be opposed to the application. Then we'll give the applicant a chance to reply to any concerns that were brought up. If you have a cell phone, I'd actually turn on silent or turn it off. If you come up to speak tonight, please come to the podium, tell us who you are, where you live, and if you're representing anyone. I want to also recognize Molly Connor. Molly was recognized in the city spotlight for employee, employee spotlight for the city email. A very nice article. We appreciate your work. Also want to recognize Steve Hirsch. Steve, you'll stand up. And Steve's going to be the newest member of the planning commission. I guess he'll start next month, but he was just appointed by city council. You want to tell us give us something about yourself?
Sure, thank you, Charles. Name's Steve Hirsch. City resident for 20+ years. Lived in James Island for 10 years. I'm current Johns Island resident for the last 10 years. The director of engineering at Seabrook Island, civil water resources engineering. So looking forward to working with you guys and just want to say hello.
Good, thank you. We appreciate you willing to serve. Thank you. I'd ask Mr. Morgan to introduce any city staff that be participating tonight.
I'm Christopher Morgan, planning manager at the city here. Amanda Cox is the planning commission planner over here. Philip Overcash is next to her, our senior planner. And then of course, Molly is obviously part of our meetings. And then Philip Clapper is our clerk. Yes.
Thank you, sir. We don't have a long agenda, but there is one zoning down there at the end. I'd like there to be more, Molly, but I know there's one. But anyway, is anyone here for that zoning? If so, we maybe can move it up. That Melrose Drive, another one, Melrose Drive. Okay, we'll stick to the agenda. First item is the minutes that were emailed out.
I don't have any issues. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes and all the changes.
So Ms. Air Harrison recommends approval of the minutes, second by Ms. Lephasis. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Great, thank you. The next item on the agenda is rezonings. Number one is 1733 Main Road, speaking of Johns Island. TMS number 27914000076, Council District 3, approximately 0.33 acres, request rezoning from single family residential, SR2, residential office. Mr. Morgan.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So yes, as the chairman said, this is a request to go from SR2, one of our single family categories, to residential office, which is probably our least intensive commercial district. This is just a comparison of the different categories here, and I believe you all were sent this in advance. It's basically the idea is that you have offices in a RO zone district, but the look of the site remains residential, roof lines, access, things like that. It's just a way to give a little bit more opportunity for the property beyond just the single family residential. The property in question is here at the corner of Main Road and Brownswood. It fronts on Main Road. And it is in a neighborhood that was, exclusively built as single family, although we have started to see some conversion of this neighborhood further down to the east. You see a corner here at Spencer Drive has commercial zoning on it. And of course, there is commercial across the street, although it has been developed for affordable housing, multifamily there. And then there's some commercial on this parcel here. So it's kind of a transitional area. This is a signalized intersection, so it's a fairly busy intersection here. And we felt, based on our comprehensive plan, which shows this as what we call suburban, that RO is a category that fits within that suburban category without being too invasive to the overall neighborhood. We would, of course, have had more concerns if the house didn't face the primary street, if it faced a residential street or something like that. But being at a primary intersection there that is signalized, access for it would come to a signalized intersection. We felt it would not have traffic impacts and felt it would be appropriate for this area and our recommendation.
Great, thank you, Mr. Morgan. Is the applicant with us?
Yeah.
You want to come up and say anything you'd like to?
My name is Sarah Young. I represent Always Young LLC and I live on James Island. We recently renovated this house and it sat vacant for a few years. Once we started to try to sell it, we had a very difficult time because of it being on such a busy street corner. We finally got an offer from somebody who wants to have a CPA office out of her home. So we weren't able to accept it because it wasn't zoned appropriately. So that's why I'm here, just to hopefully help this property be available and more useful for somebody in the future.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it. Is anyone here like to speak in favor of the application? Would anyone like to speak in opposition to the application?
One comment on it.
Okay, you want to read that, Mr. Morgan?
You want me to read it?
Is it long or surmise it?
Yeah, actually, so this came from Habital Mills at 2782 Augusta Road on Johns Island. And it says, this residential house in the corner of Brownswood, along the road with hundreds of houses on Brownswood, and all the subdivisions off Brownswood will be very badly affected due to traffic in this property, because if this property becomes an office, they already have made a path from the yard into Brownswood, particularly how this got approved. We do not have enough wide roads, and one person that is a realtor and a home flipper want to make extra money on a sale because residential office can go as high as 50% more for selling price. Cannot create additional traffic nightmare for all the residents living on and in all the communities off Brownswood. Not to mention this property has not enough parking to accommodate an office. They start with a residential office to get more money on the property, and then they will be request to make this fully commercial. We cannot allow to disrupt hundreds of families living on the street. Houses a bit further down on Main, closer to Maybank, are much closer to other commercial. 1733 is fully residential, and we would like to keep it that way again. Do not let one person's greed make hundreds of families suffer. They have already extremely congested roads on Johns Island. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Paul. Since we read that into the record, would you like to respond or answer anything that might have come up, just so we hear, just in fairness to you?
I think there's plenty of parking on the backside of the house. I mean,
And I think there's guidelines, Mr. Morgan, strict guidelines on residential office.
Absolutely.
You have to have parking in the back, not the front, I believe.
Yes, sir.
Anything else? Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. So that'll close the public aspect. Commission members, this property reminds me when we had on Savannah Highway, all the problems we had, and we went to some residential office there because people just didn't want to live on the highway, and that's a busy intersection. Mr. Members, Mr. Bailey?
Well, I would move to approve based on exactly those comments. I thought about Savannah Highway as this would be presented.
Holly Road one comes to my mind, the one where Stewart,
You were covering that as well.
behind his office, and that poor man tried to have that rezoned for years and years, and he couldn't do anything about it. And there's nobody here. This concerns me a little bit because this is a residential neighborhood and we're doing this in there, but nobody's here to, so I would second Mr. Bailey's.
Okay. So there's a motion by Mr. Bailey to approve, second by Ms. Lampus. Any other comments or questions? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Anyone in opposition? So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in favor, none opposed. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am, for coming too. The next item is number 1683 Oak Leaf Street, Daniel Island, PMS number 277-0000004, District Council District 1, approximately 1.82 acres, express rezoning from Daniel Island Park Zone DIP to Daniel Island Conservation Zone DIC. Mr. Mulder.
So in the whole scheme of zoning changes, it's a relatively minor one from the park zone to the conservation zone, but it does allow a communications use, and that's kind of the purpose of the zoning. This is just a comparison of all these. Again, this is mainly about the communications use and the ability to have that on the site. This is the property on Daniel Island. It's in the southern end of the Daniel Island area. It's not this entire parcel that you see outlined here. It's the 1.82 acres right here at Oakley. Across the street is Daniel Island Conservation Zoning. So it would be in line with that. That zoning would just carry over into this location. And I know the applicant is here tonight and can explain the communications needs here. And staff was comfortable with this. We also have a letter that was submitted from the Daniel Island Property Owners Association endorsing this. And staff recommending approval of the request.
Mr. Yates, always good to see you.
Good to see you. Good to be with you all again. Jonathan Yates, thank you very much. Thank you, Philip and Christopher, for their help getting me here tonight. A very small request, but an important request. You have a 30-acre parcel there. It's an old spoil area. Very few ways to utilize it. Daniel Island is considering turning it into a wetland mitigation bank. But they have an issue there with wireless infrastructure. There's a need to improve infrastructure on that part of the island. So they have been working in conjunction with an outfit to try to create a platform for 4 broadband carriers to be able to cover that part of the island. So in working with staff, we did not need to rezone the whole 30 acres, just 1.82 acres will do it. We can fill the need, provide the infrastructure. During storm seasons, with the folks in Western North Carolina, you don't realize how important fire is. You really don't. If you call the Charleston County Consolidated Dispatch, I think it's about 85% of all 911 calls come from wireless device. We're infrastructure, we're important infrastructure, and we gotta serve everyone. Daniel Island has been gracious making this property available, and we look forward to working with it. I'm here for any and all questions.
Thank you, Mr. Yates, as always.
Thank you.
Would no one here like to speak in favor of this application? We have that one letter that Mr. Morgan. Anyone in opposition? Great, thank you. Commission members, Mr. Jackson. Speaking of Daniel Island.
Gosh, air cell reception. When Daniel Island started in 1997, it seemed like a wonderful master plan to have all the electricity underground, everything, no above overhead wiring. It's beautiful out there, but they didn't allow towers. And now that place is packed with people and cell phones, and please, let's approve this.
I'll second this.
I think that's a motion. Motion by Mr. Jackson.
Please.
Yep, second by Mr. Bailey. Any other questions or comments? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Anyone opposed? That's seven in favor, not opposed. Thank you, Mr.
We can the tower go up. Will it be up soon?
Next item on the agenda, subdivisions. For Judge Lane, James Island, TMS number 427-00000-078, 427-000-0079.
Council District 12, 3.74 acres, request subdivision concept plan approval for 7 single-family detached residential lots. It's on single-family SR1. Who is Miss? There you go.
Remember my name?
I do. You go ahead.
I failed to mention Anna.
You did, that's
Anna
okay.
Hawk, that's all you go
That's
ahead.
okay, that's okay,
You can
Crystal.
call
I
Mr.
see
Morris,
you.
not me.
I see you, I see how you are. Good evening, the applicant in this case is requesting subdivision concept plan approval. As you mentioned, 3.74 acres, and this is at the end of Cooper Judge Lane on James Island. The project will consist in the creation of 7 lots, being accessed using the existing Cooper Judge Lane, which is in Charleston County. The new parcels conform to the subdivision requirements for parcels in the SR1 zoning. The area right there. And this is the plan. As you can see, there are no wetlands on this parcel. There are grand trees and that are being proposed to be removed, and the applicant is aware that any removal of grand trees will have to be approved by the Board of Zoning Appeals site design. The property is surrounded by single-family residential uses. As I do every time, I would like to remind you that this is a concept plan approval. So it's just approving a concept. The applicant has to return to the technical review committee for preliminary plat and road construction plans. In this case, because they are not building a road, they just will come back for preliminary plat. And they must comply with the 2020 Stormwater Design Standard Manual and all the requirements for all the departments in the city. And this will be approved only if they are found to meet all the necessary requirements. The city's technical review committee has reviewed and approved the conceptual subdivision for compliance with city standards. And the staff recommendation is for approval with the condition that because Cooper Judge is a county road, they will have to obtain an encroachment permit for the driveways prior to approval of the TRC for the preliminary plat.
Thank you, ma'am. Is the applicant with us? Applicant with us here?
I don't know if they are.
I'm sorry.
I don't know if they were.
Okay, well, if they're here for
Mhm.
the Cooper Judge Lane, I'd love to hear from you. If not, that's okay too. Is anyone here in favor of this application? Anyone in opposition to the application? Come on up, sir. Tell us who you are.
All right. Yeah, my name is Joe B. Payton. I represent the Grimber Road Extension Neighborhood Association. We would like to make sure that the plans don't create water problems and runoff water problems for our property. I live directly behind where this property is gonna be built. I know it's gonna be built up on the sand or whatever it is that they build up, and the water will come down, and I don't wanna be flooded out. And I think that's the concern of everybody in that area, that we have a water problem in that area. They need to solve that water problem before they put any more houses up. Because you're right, there's very little wetlands and stuff, so we're gonna be dependent on them having runoff capabilities. There's in the plans now to have a road going Donnie Lane, which would be the back of that area. And we wanna make sure that the road and what they're doing is in cahoots together so that we won't have the water problems.
Yes,
So
sir.
that's our number one concern, is about runoff and, also, how it's gonna impact, our neighborhood in terms of traffic.
Tell me
Things like
your
that.
name again, because I missed.
My name is Greg Payton,
Thank you.
P-A-Y-T-O-N.
Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, so that's our number one issue, and
Go ahead, man.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for this opportunity. I grew up there.
Tell us your name.
Rhonda Walters, Rhonda
Okay,
Rowan
thanks.
Walters. The property adjacent to was owned by my great grandparents. Our concerns are, of course, traffic. It's an old grass root neighborhood. We need sidewalks. We do need our drains, our ditches clean. We're not getting the service that we really, diligently deserve there. And so here, there's going to be a development coming with these homes. How are you going to protect or care for the folks that have lived there? And again, it's an old grassroots neighborhood. We're concerned about
Best
traffic.
kind.
Well, you're right, it's the best kind, but now it's being infringed on, with development and more traffic. How are we going to deal with traffic? The infrastructure. How are we going to deal with the water problems there? It is a problem there with water. When, the rain, the dirt road floods, it's been that way. And we have not gotten, again, the service that we deserve. So we're concerned about that.
Who's your council member out there?
Our council member there is.
Gregory, well, one for the city is, Joria.
Okay.
Okay,
I believe
okay,
it's Ms. Parker.
Parker.
okay, we need to.
So yeah, so we can get something, I know we can't stop
No,
growth and development, but we're asking you all to please consider these concerns when you are, giving out permits for development.
yes, ma'am. We hear you. And I'm gonna ask, Ms. Harper, go through again, when they do this, it's my understanding they can't cause harm and make anything any worse. We go through what they have to go through in order to get approved, especially that
Correct.
water
So-
issue.
The concept plan, at this point, it is a concept plan approval. So they have to meet conceptual stormwater requirements. And they.
Layman term, what do they?
Okay, they have to make sure that, they have to demonstrate at this point, and again, it's just a concept. That they are not gonna cause any harm. When they come back to the technical review committee for full review, they will have to demonstrate how they will meet the requirements, so they will
How
probably
it will
do
make any
models.
worse, their development
They-
will make
they
the area any
cannot.
worse, they have to prove that.
Correct, one
Right,
of,
so I mean, you all say that this is not their first hearing, so, we just really, I know you say this, and I'm not exactly sure where it's gonna go from here, but, we would like, you to keep that it won't create any more harm to the community or to that area. Greg's mother-in-law, is 110, just celebrated her 110th birthday. She grew up on that property, so we're asking you to really consider
We hear
that
you.
particular area.
We hear you, and stormwater is one of the biggest issues in the city. The traffic, again, I don't know if it's gonna create that much, so we have, it's not a big development, but the water is a tremendous issue.
and just to give you an idea, this has been under review, I think it started in 2021.
Yes.
So it's
yes.
been
It's
going
been
on for a
So
while.
we approve this concept, it then goes to technical review. They'll have meetings on this, are those open to the public?
They're public meetings, but they're not public hearings, so you're welcome to come and listen to what their comments are. And again, to give you an idea, the stormwater report that they have to provide is sometimes 2,000 and 3,000 pages of reports and numbers that I don't wanna look at. Somebody else will look at those, but so it is very detailed what they provide, what they have to provide, and the requirements that they have to meet in order for our stormwater department to approve a development like that.
Bottom line is, it can't make it any worse than what it is now, correct?
Well, one of the things I noticed that the sign, and Mr. Payton called me, it's down the dirt road, and I promise you, the neighbors that live there did not see the sign. So if you're going to do a public notification, it shouldn't be where, it should be
I
where
hear that quite often.
everyone in
I
that
hear-
area should be able to
We hear
see
you.
it, because I'm sure we would have more people in attendance than just bringing it up.
Right, so it'll go, if we approve it, goes to technical review,
Because
then it would come back to us eventually.
It does not.
Doesn't come back to us, but there'll be many meetings with technical review.
It usually takes like 4 or 5 meetings for them to something to be
So-
approved.
So will you send notification out to the folks in that area?
No, ma'am, you can sign up on our website to be notified when the technical review committee agendas are posted, and you can look in there.
And I would recommend
see.
you talk to city council members as well,
Correct.
and ask them to interact with you all on that and just keep you informed, because they get more notices than we would on that, so.
Now,
City, we're county, right?
yeah, see, that's what I'm saying. We have a situation here, more part of the thing is gonna be in the city, part is gonna be in the county. I live in the city.
But this particular piece is in the
It's in the-
city, and that's
it's
what
in
the
the
guidelines, that's
city.
the guidelines would have to cover.
Good, good.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I think
Ms.
it's,
Lefsis?
well, I think this is zoned SR1, isn't it?
It is.
So I mean, it's allowed to have 7 lots here, and actually they're large lots. I was just looking, the 12,000 square foot lots and 11,000, the minimum is 9,000. So, I mean, they're well within their
Right.
right unfortunately, to do anywhere from 9,000 square foot lot up. So they're well above that. Now, stormwater is very difficult, and I just hope that, you know, can we promise you that it's not gonna have any? I can't sit
It's
here.
not our.
I mean, that's not.
Ma'am, do you have anything else? Because I want to close the
Yeah,
public hearing.
I'm not concerned about them doing what they're doing. My concern is that.
Impact.
How they do.
Impact. That's my biggest
Okay.
concern.
We hear you. We hear you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to be heard in opposition? Since the applicant's not here to reply, I think we've heard from staff about what will happen from here, so that includes the public aspect. Commission members,
So I think one thing is, we are mandated to,
approve if it
Approve
meets the
this.
guidelines.
right. So we are mandated to approve this if it meets the guidelines, because, so the phases of approval start with concept and concept of plans, right? So you've got the concept and they are within the framework, so to speak, of the ordinance. And what the issue sometimes becomes is that you've got multiple jurisdictions because you're county, you've got city, and people are not cleaning out the ditches, they're not maintaining the roads, you've got lowlands, you got highlands. And at one point in time, years ago, people were doing infill. And so there was, in 2021, we updated our stormwater requirements, and our stormwater requirements became more stringent because I can point out properties right here on Grimble Extension Road that have development plans that cannot get off the ground based upon 1/10 of a hundredth of an inch of water, okay? So I can.
They hold it.
So the standards are high, there's a high bar, and they're not, and the bar will not be lower.
We're lucky this property's in the city, I would think. If it was the county, it'd probably be much easier to develop.
Right, so one thing that I want to make sure that your neighborhood association understands is that the process, there are gonna be a lot of no's on their way to yes. And the more, and because they're gonna receive no's is because the city cares about where you stand 10 years from now and how your property will survive 100-year and a 500-year flood. So we're especially cognizant of that. So the process, the wheels are gonna grind, but, it may take as much time as it takes, but the city's going to do right.
Is that a motion?
And so I'm gonna make a motion to approve.
And I second that motion.
Is there a second to the motion?
I second that motion.
So the motion is by Ms. Harris, seconded by Peter Brian Jenkins. Any other questions, comments? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? That's 7 in favor, none opposed. Y'all stick to your guns and just keeping track with the technical review and talk to your city council member. Thank you for coming too. Next item on the agenda is number 2, Primus Park, Keenhoy. TMS number 26800000133, Council District 1, approximately 105.1 acres. Request subdivision concept approval conceptual plan for roads, utilities to serve future single-family residential developments. Zone SR2. Ms. Hart.
And this is another situation where we have a concept plan request. In this case, the applicant is requesting a subdivision concept plan approval for 105.1 acres off of Clements Ferry Road in Keenhoy, and this will create 102 lots for one family attached homes and the rights of ways that will serve those homes. The proposed rights of ways is the typical for residential streets, and the new parcels conform to the subdivision requirements for one family attached in this case. I believe it's attached. No, I'm doubting myself. I apologize. There are wetlands in this case. You can see the darker gray in there is the wetland buffer that is already in place. So they will have to maintain that wetland buffer on there. There are no grand trees in this case. This is mostly pine that is not protected by city ordinance. This property is surrounded by multifamily residential in the front and industrial uses. As I said, this is a concept plan that is just approving the concept the applicant will have to come back to the technical review committee for approval of preliminary plat, which will create the lots. And road construction plans, who will approve the improvements that they will have to make to the parcel to create the roads. The city's technical review committee has reviewed and approved the conceptual subdivision for compliance standards, and the staff recommendation is for approval.
Thank you, Ms. Harper. Is the applicant with us? Come on up, sir.
Hey, David Williams with Thomas and Atkins.
Anything you'd like to say, or?
I think Alan did a great job.
Okay.
There's this is a great property because there's no grand trees on it. We have coordinated with the Gildan property to the east of here on some things. We've coordinated with the other folks that this property was subdivided from, so there has been a lot of upfront coordination on this. We've worked on this for a couple of years. We started early 22. But we're here to answer any questions that you may have.
Nope, thank you, sir. Appreciate you being here. Would anyone like to?
Well, just say that, sir, before you sit down, might want to start answering those questions now.
Just give us,
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone like to speak in favor of the application? Anyone in opposition to the application? Come on up, sir, have a seat and we'll get back to you. We'll see what kind of questions.
How you doing, sir?
How are you, man?
My name is Duane Vinny. I'm from the Jack Promise community, which is in the back, in the front of this. We really don't understand how we got here. Back in 2022, I took a meeting with Mr. Gray Boyd, with some other members of the community, and he clearly stated that we would not have this subdivision that came here that's opposed right now. Everything here that has been done without no transparency. We drive Jack Promise Road, there's one way in, there's one way out. And every meeting has been happening, but the community hasn't been notified probably at all. This one particular sign that we happened to saw was at the bottom of our cul. I mean, if you take Jack Promise Road all the way to the bottom and in the cul-de-sac, no one goes down there because not everyone lives down there. It wasn't even at the site of where this goes. So throughout this whole entire process, I don't believe that transparency has not been here. So now the community has finally seen this, and now we already almost in the concept stage where you're saying, hey, y'all getting this regardless if we like it or not, because this right here is in the concept stage. And was it fair to our community? No. I spoke to Mr. Lloyd. We already spoke that there's not enough infrastructure on Plymouth Ferry to even accept another 200 houses at the top of Jack Promise Road. That's just insane. Everything, this area was originally cited as light industrial. And the only thing that was in the master plan was we were supposed to get MacArthur apartment. They just built almost 10 apartments, and every apartment on the top of Jack Promise Road is partially filled. They can't even fill the area because of the traffic. We don't have enough infrastructure to add another 100 houses, and we get 1,000 on pass us down the opposite side. It's only one way into Jack Promise. It's a loop around. They open up 2 lanes, and on either side, it's still bottlenecks. And onto the Marklock and onto the Wanda Bridge. It's not enough infrastructure to add another 200 houses, especially right there in that particular area. That area has just one light, and then it comes that if they put that, from my understanding, when they attempted to do it, they said that the entrance will not be on Jack Promise Road. Because Jack Promise Road can't take where that entrance is, it's a curve right there anyway. I'm just trying to ask, where's the transparency in all of this?
Yes, ma'am, we hear you.
It's not fair. It's just not fair, and we don't have the infrastructure to even build another 200 houses right there.
Did the developers meet with you at all, at your organization?
The developer was supposed to meet with us. That's what my understanding was from the meeting. We never heard nothing back from the developers.
Okay.
The developer, we're here, and now the trees are coming down, and they're asking us to say, hey, just accept these 200 houses with all this water, with the wetlands right there. How they gonna fill that wetlands? Again, that wetlands is gonna push back into our lane and make our lane useless.
I hear you. Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else like to speak in opposition? Come on up, young ladies.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Tiana Mack. I actually live on the edge of Jack Promise Road where the sign was located. The sign was actually placed probably about maybe 5 days ago. As Dawn stated, the people that she spoke to in regards of it, I'm gonna stand on everything that Dawn said. My other question is, they wanna name this complex Promise Park. They wanna name it Promise Park. Do you guys know what the name Promise stands for?
Ma'am, if you directed,
Sorry.
and then, well, he'll answer,
Okay.
he'll answer.
So I would like to know, why are they gonna name it Promise Park? I live on Jack Promise. I was born and raised on Jack Promise Road. That's our ancestors' name. So the fact that they wanna have this structure on Clements Ferry Road, what does the name Promise Park have to do with Clements Ferry Road?
Yes, ma'am.
They're gonna need to take that name off. There's history behind that name, and what they're building, that's no part of our history. Our history started with our ancestors. It's not gonna end with us, but we're gonna keep that name going. You don't know the name that's behind that name. That name brings dignity, power, civilization, slavery, and history, and it's not going to come on Clements Ferry Road. And as far as them stating and giving us time for the people in the community, we're many, but we're short in numbers because of the time that was given to us
Yes, ma'am.
to explain why they want to name it Promise Park and where will it be located.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Anyone else in opposition? Come on up, sir.
Good evening, guys. My name is Omar Asmi.
Say your name again tomorrow.
Omar Asmi.
Thank you.
I'm here because I agree with those two. My number one issue is transparency also. He said that they're building the, attached houses back there. We've already approved plans to build like all those houses over there. That neighborhood, Jack Promise neighborhood is, I remember, I'm born and raised from there. I remember when it was the only thing back there. I remember when that used to be a gravel road. My concerns are when we built that up, where's the flood waters gonna go? Where's the rain waters gonna go? How are we, it's gonna completely change the quality of life. You know, we're already adapting to the houses and apartments being built on Clements Ferry Road. We had to deal with all the construction going on Clements Ferry Road for years. You know, I recall seeing the t-shirt that said that I just got back from 2048 and they're still doing construction on Clements Ferry Road. So we've been really patient, and I think we understand that we can't stop progress, but within the process of that progress, we don't want our quality of life to be destroyed. I think we're entitled to that. We know that you have to do certain things, but do we need that? Do we need that subdivision? Attached homes, you already have the apartments right there on the other side of Jack Promise Road. You're gonna have those buildings right there. And you got all the neighborhoods out the road a little bit by the school. So at what point are we gonna take into consideration for the people that were there before all of this and maintain their quality of life? We get those apartments, those homes built, that's gonna change our quality of life. Our ability to go to and from work. And we've got like 6, 7 generations of people that are born and raised and still live in that community. And I hope to have my kids' kids be able to still live in that community. So I hope you guys take our concerns and issue into considerations. All we want to do is be involved in it. And the fact that that sign was placed 5 days ago at the end of the road like that, that was inconsiderate. And to me, that tells me that we can't trust you because you're already up to something. Because if you wanted to be a fair arbiter, you would have put the sign right where the neighborhood's gonna be. So we can do exactly what we're doing right now.
That's the city post sign about the meeting.
Yes.
Mr. Morgan hears you, he'll direct that, because I agree with you. We've had that before for people. But thank you. Anything, I don't mean to cut you off. You go ahead.
That's it.
Thank you for coming, sir. Anyone else in opposition? Yes, ma'am, come on up.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Simone Foy, and I do have concerns about the quality of life as well. I grew up in the neighborhood. I'm one of the 7 generations as well. And, you know, my concern is having these 200 homes in the area is going to definitely not improve the quality of life because it's going to cause traffic. Again, it is a one-way in, one-way out street. And if they approve that, I believe their plans are going to be trying to widen the roads. If they widen the roads, the state is going to possibly try to take portion of land that are in our community and are owned by our ancestors and owned by people living there. But that's going to definitely not improve the quality of life for us. It's going to possibly increase housing costs, right? Increase our taxes on our properties, which again is not going to improve the quality of life. We have, you know, gentrification problems where these historically marginalized neighborhoods like ours undergo these changes, undergo these construction changes. And again, we're gonna be affected by that when it comes down to traffic. There's already traffic significantly on Clemens Ferry. And we've undergone on Clemens Ferry, them widening the roads, but Jack Promise Road is only one way in, one way out. And like they were saying, 7 generations of our family and our history back there that are gonna be directly impacted. So at what point are we gonna be concerned about, again, the people that have lived there for decades? So that's my concern.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for coming too. Anyone else like to speak in opposition?
Yes.
Come on up.
My name is Sheila Rivers. I am also a resident in that neighborhood. My main concern is that all these years, we never had a flooding problem. With all the hurricanes we had, we never had a flooding problem. And my concern is when this development happens, 'cause I know you guys are gonna approve it, when it happens, we do not want any water to cause problems on our property. Yes, you guys are gonna elevate this subdivision of 100 and some odd homes, plus homes. You're gonna elevate it. And we are concerned that you guys really need to look into how you're going to divert that water when it drains off and not drain off to the existing property. That's my main concern.
Thank you. Thank you for coming too. I know it was a long drive for all y'all to come. Anyone else like to speak in opposition? Okay. We're gonna hear back from the applicant to answer some concerns. Ms. Hart, clarify the number of homes they're talking about.
102.
102, okay.
And as one point that there's no access through Jack Primus, everything is through Clemens Ferry.
Okay.
So just
Okay.
wanted to, the entrance is going to be right here.
Sorry.
You're saying that the neighborhood won't actually exit onto Jack?
No, sir.
Okay.
It's Clemens Ferry, all through Clemens Ferry. Let me,
Wait 1 sec, wait 1 second. Because we closed, we really can't go back and forth, but we're gonna get some more answers, I promise you.
so this is the access, this is Clemens Ferry down here, and this is the access to the neighborhood. Right here.
Ms. Harrison, do you have a question?
I think I have my questions for the applicant.
Okay, would the applicant like to come up and answer some concerns that were brought up? Would you like to come up and address any of the concerns that were brought up, sir?
Thank you, everybody, came to speak. We'll address the name change first.
Thank you.
We will be changing the name of the project.
Thank you.
Sure. Provided the city will allow us to do it during permitting. The marketing team has not got involved in the name, and the projects are generally named based on the road they're tying into. This project was, it's not tying into Jack Promise Road, but there was another project to the north that was. And that's, I believe that's where the name.
You speak to us, again, I understand your address, but.
Sure. I believe that's where the name came from, but there's nobody's connected to that name. From the
Okay.
development team.
Thank
The
you.
name-
So
the
that
name
name
was
is off
changed.
the. that
Yeah, the
name is
name's
gone.
gone. Yeah,
Gone.
the name's
Perfect, all right.
As Anna said, the connection is to Clemens Ferry Road. And there has been a DOT traffic study approved by the city and by DOT for that connection. The connection will require for everything that is planned in this area, it's intended that will be a full access connection one day. It's likely that we'll be required to put a right turn lane in for the project. We might be required to put a left turn lane in also. For our project, it's still TBD, but the DOT is involved in that. We'll have to meet all the requirements. And then the other big topic that was hit on was stormwater. And you guys did a great job earlier explaining how difficult it is to get a project approved in the city, but with this, I mean, there's a lot of requirements. We're only developing the upland areas. And
So they have to prove, let me just reiterate, they have to prove that it won't make the area any worse. Is that correct?
yes, we've spent 18 months getting concept approval on the stormwater. I'm sure we'll spend another year going through the further technical side, but even the concept level is very, very strict. And there's a lot of requirements, and we'll meet all of them.
Would you be willing to meet with these? I don't know if they met with you. Would you be willing to set up some meetings with these folks to keep them
Absolutely.
informed if this moves forward?
Sure.
Okay, all right, that's very important. I'm sorry, any other answers you have, you go ahead, I'm sorry.
I think I hit anything unless Come on up, Patty.
Okay. Ms. Harrison, did you have a question?
Well, I think it's more of a process question so that the public understands the process. Because what I'm hearing is that, A, you don't trust the process. Or how information is being disseminated. And then two, I think it's incumbent upon us as planning commission to, because this is kind of the quandary sometimes with the planning commission, is that there are certain things that we have to approve if they meet a criteria, but that criteria has been established, but you don't know the criteria, right? It's like, kind of like, where, if something's in one hand and you don't know how this other hand is working. So the process becomes very complicated because it's all engineers, it's civil engineers, and it's numbers and calculations and a 100-year flood and the stormwater plan and everything. So I think the first part is understanding how the subdivision process works. And the first part is that this is the first step. So the first thing that I heard you tell me or heard you tell us is that it's been 18 months. So that is reaching back to what, 2022? 2022. So I cannot tell you today how many times they've probably been to what is arguably called a TRC, right? And the TRC is called Technical Review Committee, and that is engineers, fire, road, all civil engineers are studying their plan. So they've probably presented multiple plans in order to determine what stormwater should look like, what the roads, entry, exits, and really, for the public safety for you all. And then the other part of this too, and that's the quandary, which I said earlier, which is you've got two agencies trying to work in tandem with each other, and that is county and city. And they don't necessarily always match up, but we try our best. And this property's in the city. And the other part too is this, that just because this is a concept, doesn't mean it's approved today, rubber stamp, you get to go and start grading and tearing down trees. That's not how it will occur, because they've got 2 more steps. They have 2 more approval processes before they can even pull a permit on anything. And that's the subdivision process that happens. And so what they are limited to that area, what we are required to approve is whether or not they have done their due diligence of conceptually how many detention ponds for runoff is required, their lot sizes, ingress and egress into the property. We're not necessarily concerned with the name of the project, but we're concerned with how do
We
you.
got that resolved.
Yes.
So that part.
But we want to make sure that what they've looked at is how much wetlands are there. So this is over 100 acres. More than 50% of it, I believe, is wetlands. So they can't even build on it. So there can't be any infill at this juncture. So what we're focused in on are these lots. And it does seem dense. It always seems dense. Nobody really, this is the hard part about development, is that no one likes developers, but we need housing. And who does the housing, right?
It's one thing that need house when rent now
Ma'am,
over.
I hear you, but we just can't, and I hear you.
So when we make the motion to approve this, it's because we know that there's been 18 months of it. And I think the part of the process of TRC is that it seems like it doesn't feel transparent, but it is available. But it's not something that gets you into this type of forum. But for 18 months, they've been in a forum that has been grinding out these numbers and calculations.
All right, thank you. No, thank you. Those are all good points. But I would like to reiterate, and I'm giving Ms. Lampers, that this gentleman has agreed to meet with y'all, or his team. Am I correct?
Yes.
Meet with y'all, fully informed, everything else, if we go forward. Ms. Lampers, let's go.
No, that was what I was gonna say, is obviously communication has been non-existent between the owners and the property owners of Jack Promise Road. I mean, and you may have met with them 18 months ago when they heard, but they didn't even know that this was not coming out on Jack Primus Road. So I think it's critical. I mean, you know, a lot of misinformation seems to be going around, and I think that they deserve to know what's going on in their backyard. They've been there for many, many decades and years and hundreds of years. And I think that, who is this, McAllister? They need to make an effort to be more transparent and more open so that these people can get the questions that are answered for them. And it's not, just so y'all know, it's not the owner's fault that the sign was placed where it was. That's a city of Charleston responsibility. So that was not intended to hide anything from anybody. So I do want y'all to understand that, but I certainly understand the fact that y'all need to have more information so that you can make.
So, you know, you can sit down if you like. I don't mean to be just saying, sit for a minute
Oh,
unless
yeah.
somebody has another question. of the,
That's all. I just wanted to, you know,
Yeah.
we can't, that's not part of what we're approving, but it's obviously very important for the owners to meet with the neighbors. They've been there a whole long time and they need to stay informed.
Thank you, guys.
So thank you. Any other questions, comments, Ms. Bailey?
I'm gonna say what I feel many of the times that we have a subdivision request on our agenda. And that is, this process stinks. It stinks. And most of the time I'm feeling like it stinks for us because we're sitting up here and we play this role in this subdivision approval process. The only thing we can do tonight is we volunteers who are bankers and lawyers and real estate appraisers, we can try to decide that maybe these professionals at the staff have misread the subdivision requirements and maybe disagree with them. But who are we to do that? Who are we to? So I always feel sorry for myself, but then I look out in the audience and I know where Jack Primus is. And how many of y'all are there? Like a lot of you that drove a long way to speak about these things that have nothing to do with what we are actually considering tonight. I've sat here many times I've sat here and thought, man, I do not like what is being proposed. I think that this is a disaster for flooding, or I think it's terrible for traffic. Or God, I wouldn't want more. I've sat here and thought of that about so many subdivision submittals that we have had in my, I don't know, 4-ish years on this commission. And I have no authority to vote no. So we've wasted our time, we've wasted your time, and I think it stinks. I think it stinks. And I'm sorry all of you wasted your time coming down here, but I hope the people involved heard you and take it seriously. Because I'm gonna have to vote yes. And then I'm gonna go home tonight and think there's nothing I could do about it. So anyhow, I wish there was a way for us to change this process. We don't make those decisions, unfortunately.
And again, thank you, Ms. Very strong thoughts, and I agree with you. Again, the process is if it meets the guidelines, we have to approve something. We have to approve it contractually. We legally have to approve. The only thing we can ever do is defer things. That's not the case here. That doesn't do any good. We'd have to come back and look at it again. I hear you. Is there a motion? Again, my biggest concern, my personal biggest concern is communications, both in the city, and I'm gonna talk to them about the posting, see as much as we can do about posting these properties, because we've heard that before, and there'll be more posting and better posting. And I'm talking to Mr. Morgan to see if we need to talk to that about. But secondly is communication between the developers and you folks. That's important to me. So is there any other questions or a motion?
I think it's important that they know that we're an advisory commission. We, you know, our word doesn't go very far. It goes to, you know, some goes to council and some doesn't. So
It does. These things don't, these don't go to city
I
council.
know, I say some go to city
If
council.
somebody opposes it,
some
goes,
don't.
so we get legally involved.
Well, so this is, you know, this is difficult for us because they have 105 acres of which 50% of it is not being, that's the marsh area that's not being, it will hopefully impact any flood flooding that you think that may be coming. So it's not like we're trying to put 300 homes on here. There's 102 homes and they have a right to do it. Now, they don't have a right to intrude on you. So like Mr. Bailey said, this is, you know, it's not favorable for us to want to see you guys suffer, but y'all do have the ability to follow this through. This is conceptual. You can go and follow through with, hopefully the owners will meet with you. Hopefully you can, you know, we can't stop this, I guess, is our question. Can we?
Our commission.
No, no.
No, I'm just saying,
cannot.
we are not able to stop.
No,
it.
no, ma'am. Cannot, we have to vote
So
on
I'm
this.
just, you know,
If we don't,
We end up, it's a legal issue. It's a
I
legal issue.
understand that, and
So,
I know.
Is there any other questions, comments, or motions?
We'll make a quick comment just to clarify for the group so they didn't make a trip for nothing. I do think we figured out that it's not attached housing. It's not 200 units. It's 100 units. The ingress egress is on Clements Ferry, not Jack Primus.
For now.
you said for now.
And the name Primus is.
That, again, we can't go back and forth, but that's why we want him to be meeting with you folks.
Primus.
I'm sorry, Mr. Jackson. Mr. Jackson, go ahead.
Yeah, but I mean, I think for a minute when we first started this, the community thought that this was gonna come out onto Jack Primus Road.
Right, I hear you.
And it looks like this concept is everything's coming out onto the now new
Okay.
4-lane Clements Ferry. And I just thought that was important instead of focusing on some of the negatives, which are very real. The other part is it's 100 acres with basically 1 unit per acre, which is not the highest density in the world. There's plenty of runoff for the retention ponds and the wetlands as I see it. So I think they can come up with a plan where if you can get this development done and gone, that's the worst your community's gonna see once you can get it all developed by the developers and not have anything else left than your own properties. But
Is that a motion? Is there a motion?
I'm gonna, yes, I
Okay.
think because everything fits
Right.
fits the,
Okay, so there's a
Then
motion
I
by
make a
Mr.
motion
Jackson.
that
I
this, we
agree
approve
with
this.
everything you said, and I appreciate your comments. Motion by Mr. Jackson, says second.
I'm gonna say, so obviously, because we have to follow the ordinance. So there's two things I think we should, that that we are asking of ourselves. And I know, Charlie, you want to move this forward. But number one, this is a good resource just right here is Ms. Hart, so that you will know when the next couple of meetings are going to be about this project that are that are at TRC level, because there's, like I said, this is a process. Second, the applicants here, and you know, as a community, you hold their feet to the fire on things that you feel are very important about drainage, infrastructure, and civil engineering. And bring those things to the attention of Ms. Ms. Harp, because she's going to be responsive. And I'll say this again, there are going to be a lot of no's on their path to yes.
Great. So there's a motion by Mr. Bailey. And another thing I'd like to add, and I think those are good, your city council member, I'd definitely be in touch with them on this as well, so they understand concerns. Motion by Mr. Jackson. Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Bailey. Any other questions, comments? If not, all in favor of the motion to approve with the. No, that was, okay. With the approve, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Anyone opposed? 7 in favor, not opposed. We hear you. We thank you for coming. And we're gonna try to make it better. Thank you all.
Mr. Chairman, I need to recuse myself from the next item on the agenda.
The development agreement number 1.
Yep.
Great, thank you. Record, Mr. Bailey has approved himself in development agreement number 1, which is King Street extension. I'm not gonna read all the tax map numbers. I'm gonna read the street. It's Milford Street and Grasswell Street, Magnolia Flood. It's request approval of a development agreement between the city of Charleston and HR Charleston I LLC, HR Charleston 2 LLC, I guess that was HR Charleston 1 LLC, HR Charleston 2 LLC, HR Charleston 3 LLC,
let anybody know.
HR Charleston 4 LLC, and HR Charleston, looks like 9,
Cities pulling faster.
7 LLC and 9 LLC. Mr. Morgan.
So I'm gonna just do a brief introduction on this, and Ms. Creech will add some stuff to it as well. But this is a fairly simple development agreement amendment course, there are two documents that really govern Magnolia. First and foremost is the PUD, which has been modified a couple of times. You all modified it not too long ago, a couple of years, I think it was. And then there's a development agreement. When that last PUD amendment was done, there was a addition of a parcel in here that was not in the development previously. And I think we've got a map that shows that. Here we go. This is what it was previously. It's heavy industrial. It's the Parker Marine facility. That business ended up closing and it sold to the development team. And it is now a part, here we go, of the current planned unit development. So this amendment would add that parcel back in, and then it also does speak to some potential flood walls that would be constructed to help protect the property and create appropriate edges to the land in relation to the Ashley River and its mortgages. And that's really what it's all about. But Ms. Creech, if you'd like to add anything to that.
Good to have you as well, ma'am. Go ahead, you come off the podium if you would. Good to see you.
Good evening. So this amendment does four things. First, it extends the lease between the city and HR Charleston 9 for the CPW property to July 31st of 2026. Second, it provides for the construction of a flood wall in the open space, which will be dedicated to the city. That flood wall will be in such design and such location as approved by the city and will be maintained exclusively by the Master Property Owners Association via a recorded covenant agreement. Third, as Christopher mentioned, it adds a parcel to the development agreement. That's TMS 466000043, referred to as the Parker parcel. You all approved the addition of that parcel to the PUD back in 2020. And finally, the development agreement would be extended an additional 10 years. The staff is recommending approval and that it's consistent with the comprehensive plan. And I see that James Wilson for the applicant is here to have any additional.
And thank you, Mr. Wilson. Love to hear from you as always.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. James Wilson, Lovell, Von Dickinson here on behalf of the applicant. Things are moving forward at Magnolia. We truly believe that we'd be breaking ground in 25 in infrastructure. And part of this, as Mr. Creech described, is sort of the point of property where this piece is being added that will have waterfront park on the front of it. And what this amendment does is just clarify that our POA will maintain that flood wall, even though it'll be within park area dedicated to the city. So the important point is not to put that burden on the city, to retain it on the property owner to maintain that flood wall. So that's something we worked out with the city, good for the city, good for everybody, I think. And then also, just as Ms. Creech described, the extension of the public works lease of the city. That's something that's important to the city, the mayor's requested from us, because they need, the city needs more time to do its replacement public works facilities. So those are probably two most salient things. Glad to answer your questions.
Thank you. Appreciate it. It's always good to see you, Mr. Wilson.
Thank you all.
Would anyone in the public like to be heard on this issue? If not, then we'll close the public aspect. Commission members, questions, comments, motions?
So move for approval.
Ms. Mathis has moved for approval.
Second.
Second, Rita Brian Jenkins. Any other questions, comments? Not all in favor, signify by saying aye. Anyone opposed? It's 6 in favor, not opposed. Thank you all for coming. Good to see all of you. The next item is ordinance amendment. Come on back, Mr. Bailey. Ordinance amendment to amend chapter 54 of the Code of the City of Charleston zoning ordinance by amending Article 9, Section 54-920 and Section 54-941 to establish alternate members for the Board of Zoning Appeals, Board of Zoning Appeals Site, Design and Planning Commission to delete all outdated sections of Appendix E and reserve the appendix for future use. Just so you all know, I think this was brought on by Vice Chairman Hussein and I had with Mayor on this. So, and Mr. Morgan, have you heard on that?
Yeah, so yes, this is making its way through our city approval process. After tonight's review if you all recommend it forward to City Council, we'll go to City Council at their second meeting in December and we'll get final readings then. And I think that it is at the Community Development Committee of Council tomorrow. So again, it's moving forward and it will give you all one alternate. So when there is not a full complement of members, that you could have an alternate serve on just one of the 9 members. And once this is approved, then an alternate would be selected by city council.
Great, thank you. Would anyone like to be heard on this issue? There's a big crowd out there now still. Does anybody like to be heard?
I'll move for approval.
Great. I call this a Jacobs amendment, but anyway.
No, we're not doing that.
Ms. Limpethus and second by Mr. Jackson.
Second.
Great. Any other questions, comments? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? It's 7 in favor, none opposed. Last item on the agenda
Wait,
is
Charlie, has this been to a reading with the council so far?
I believe it's at a first reading, right?
first reading,
Yeah,
I think.
I thought it had a first reading.
They do this at the end of the
So
council.
they'll do
meeting,
second and third reading all of them.
But that'll be the public hearing also in December.
Got it.
Great. Zonings, number 1, and is 901 Melrose Drive, TMS 30914000063, District 2, 0.27 acres. Press SR1, it was R4 in Charleston County, Mr. Moore.
And it's SR1, as we brought other parcels in this neighborhood are, and it's in line with the R4 from Charleston County.
Right.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Let me ask, anybody like to be heard on this? I don't think so, but anyway, go ahead. Ms. Harrison moves for approval.
That's second.
Ms. Brian Jenkins seconds. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
In opposition, that's 7 in favor, none opposed. Update staff, anything?
Nothing new.
Any meetings coming up, anything?
So, yeah, a couple of things that are going